Alrighty, everybody, it is currently Sunday, May 4th, 2025. And this is a very special episode, as this is the 3 subscriber special coming at you live. Nobody clap too loud. Hey, guys, I don't need the admiration that bad. Guys, everybody calm it down. Okay. Yeah, I know, it's a big deal. 3 subscribers on YouTube is it's a very funny accomplishment, though, because as soon as you sign up for YouTube, automatically 30 Indian bots subscribe to your YouTube channel, and I'm not even there yet. I'm not even to the 30 Indian bots point yet. I'm to the 3. I'm still at the sex bot level, right? I'm not to the Indian bot level yet. I'm still on come click on my link to look at my hole in OnlyFans, or I'm still on that level. There's some Russian dudes out there using AI to try to trick me into, looking at some holes, trying to trick me into giving up my credit card information to look at some holes. So, I'm still at that level, but hey, fuck it. We ball, man. Today's episode is, a guy with 3 subscribers on YouTube. Obviously, I have life, pretty much every part of life, every different aspect of life figured out, right? And I have it figured out in a holistic way. Every single aspect of my life is 100% figured out. I'm kind of like the Huberman of people with 3 subscribers on YouTube. I'm kind of like Jordan Peterson and Andrew Huberman combined together. I tried to do the Huberman thing this morning. Doesn't he say something about looking at the sun in the morning? Usually my sun in the morning is retarded people on TikTok. But that's what I look at in the morning. That's what I stare at. That's what inspires me when I wake up. And I was like, and usually before I do these episodes, I don't look at social media. I do look at my phone because I'm I can't not do it. You know what I mean? I gotta fucking do it. So I usually play chess or whatever. And this morning when I was doing it, I was just looking at my phone. And I was like, dude, chess is so fucking boring. And I can't play a 15-minute fucking chess game before I do the podcast, because then my brain is going to be completely dead, even though I'm playing against the lowest level of the chess thing. I'm playing against the one that basically tries to lure you into beating it, and I'm still what the fuck, dude? Is Magnus Carlsen on the other side of this thing? What the fuck is going on here? So instead of doing that, I just looked up piebald animals. I was just Googling piebald animals and looking at them. And if you don't know what a piebald animal is, it's kind of like the animal version of vitiligo, where it's part of the thing is a white, and part of it's the natural tone of whatever it is. So if it's a deer, it'll have patches of white on it. And so I was looking up piebald whale, dude. I was just looking at these animals being which ones are piebald, dude? I need to know what a piebald whale looks like. Turns out they don't really have an answer. It's kind of hard to tell. And I have found out, and this is another heartbreaking revelation that I've discovered, in my journey to true wisdom, to, a true philosophical life. I figured out whales, there's not that many of them, and most of them aren't that sick. You know what I mean? It was a tough revelation that I came to, because when I was looking up whales, I was like, how many types of whales are there? There's 20 types of whales, and only 3 of them are really that sick. Maybe 4 or 5, at the most. But the blue whale, obviously, that fucker's huge. Everyone loves him. And then we got the humpbacks. I mean, that's just a classic, funny name as well. And then we got the sperm whales, which are just fucking insane. You know what I mean? Captain Ahab, Moby Dick type shit. Obviously, those guys rule. And then we have what's that called? The bowhead whale, and that guy's pretty funny. His head is upside down, kind of. His eyes are all in a weird position like that. He kind of looks like Anna Taylor-Joy. But all the other types of whales are just kind of lame, dude. They're kind of smaller blue whales, and it's why do you even exist, dude? If you're not going to be 100 feet long and weigh 80 million pounds or however much they weigh, I don't know. I can't do the conversion of my head from tons to pounds, so we're just going to go with 80 million pounds. If you're not the biggest whale in the ocean, or you're not some sick ass shit, then with all due respect, fuck off. But today's episode obviously is about Socrates' Philosophies. And, as a guy with 3 subscribers on YouTube, I figured, I'd break this down. I'd really let you guys know what's going on with Socrates. I break down his entire thought process and show you guys, as someone with 3 subscribers on YouTube, how the guy who founded Western philosophy is kind of retarded. So I figured, I figured I'd do that today, and he is kind of retarded. Like that's the heartbreaking thing about reading about a lot of these people is that you kind of figure out like they're kind of gay, dude. They're kind of fucking just like these weird gay little losers. Like Napoleon, you're like Napoleon. He went out and he conquered the fucking Europe. You know what I mean? He conquered the world basically. At the time, Europe basically controlled the rest of the world. It was like if he would have conquered Europe, he would have been able to get to China and fuck those dudes up. And those guys were the only other real threat, And you find out about him, and you're like, this dude was he was into like sniffing armpits and shit, dude. Like, this guy was just like an autistic predator. Like if Napoleon was born today, he'd be on like the military porn subreddit, posting pictures of like the Polish special forces or whatever, dude. He wouldn't be conquering the world. So that's a tough one. And Socrates is like that too, but he is from ancient Greece. And those guys they're cool with the gay shit, so it does make sense. And they're also they're not like the Roman Empire in the sense that they're like super like methodical and like, they're not like that. They're kind of a little more free spirited. And that does make sense because these guys, it wasn't really one cohesive country. They were kind of always fighting with each other, so it wasn't like super stable, but it was a lot more stable than these other countries. Like the reason I did this episode is because I've been listening to this podcast about ancient Greece. I don't know why. I don't know what got me into thinking about ancient Greece a lot, but I've been learning a lot about it. And apparently the rest of the world at the time was kind of like, even like the big empires, like the Persian Empire or whatever, like which was the other biggest empire at the time, and maybe there was one in like somewhere in East Asia, like China maybe, like these weren't the same cohesive empires that like the Greek Empire was. They were different ethnic groups, they had like different religions, they worshiped different gods, shit like that. They spoke completely different languages, whereas Greece at the time, they followed relatively the same religion. Their languages, they might have spoke like slightly different languages, but they were mutually intelligible, and they were all kind of like the same ethnicity. So it was like this one big cohesive empire at the time, but they were still like fighting with each other all the fucking time. They were still like, no, dude. They were like, the Spartans are like, fucking thinking is gay, dude. Get the fuck out of here. We're gonna destroy you guys. And spoiler alert, they did, dude. The Second Peloponnesian War, which we'll talk about a little bit, they fucked them up and they got in there and they got active. And Athens was also like, no, thinking is cool. Thinking is how you get boats and stuff. And they were like, dude, we don't need boats, dude. We're not fish. We don't live in the fucking water. That's what the Spartans said to him. But yeah, I think we'll get into Socrates. We're going to talk about his background a little bit, understand why he's like this kind of like gay little nerd type of guy. And yeah, we'll get into his background, and then we'll talk about some of his philosophy. I didn't really get too much down about his philosophy because I figured out about like the Socratic method, and I was like, God damn it, dude, you let me down. You really let me down with this one, Socrates. Like Socrates he's one of those guys in your head, right? Like Napoleon, that's kind of like this mythical figure almost, and you don't really understand what he does, but you're like, he's fucking Socrates, dude. Like he invented philosophy, he invented like morality, all that shit. And then you learn about him and you're like, God damn it, dude, why were you such a gay nerd? I had like you were this fucking mythic figure in my head, dude. You were this animal that just thought and wrote all the time. And then I find out you were basically like fucking, what's that guy's name? Steven Crowder. He was basically Steven Crowder, just like, prove me wrong. I'm smarter than you. And that's literally what he did. They didn't have like colleges really at the time, but if they did, he would have been going around to colleges being like, Trump's good and abortion's bad. Prove me wrong. I dare you. Figure it out. Prove me wrong. But his background a little bit, why he became this man. So obviously Socrates is credited with founding Western philosophy. And fuck, dude, I should have wrote this down before I started recording this, but I was like, I have no idea what philosophy is. I guess philosophy is kind of like the Hindu / Buddhist, like their dharma. That's like a philosophy. It's like a way to look at the world and understand the world and understand yourself as well. So he's credited with like founding basically Western philosophy. And then I think it's Plato, who's one of his disciples, is like the guy that everyone points to, because fucking Socrates never wrote anything down. That's another like very gay nerd thing, to be like, I'm just going to talk and my ideas are so important that everyone will remember them. So Plato, and obviously Plato was his little butt boy. He was like, Socrates, you're so smart, dude. Oh my God, how did you come up with that? We should think and maybe like just not believe what everyone else believes. How did you think of that, Socrates? Like, that's so smart, dude. And he was like scribbling in his little notebook with his fucking chisel or whatever. He was chiseling some shit out on a fucking tile, just being oh my god, it's a tough one, dude. It's a tough it's a tough wake up call, man. This is like when you wake up one day and your floor is just covered in clothes and like empty fucking shit bags or whatever, and you're like, God damn it, dude, what am I doing? What was I doing looking up the Socrates game? This guy, this fucking dweeb. He was a dweeb too. He was like the ultimate fucking just an absolute, because there's like the nerds, and I like nerds because nerds are fucking quiet. They shut the fuck up and they keep to themselves. I don't like dweebs, and like, I guess dweebs is really the only way to put it. That just like, I'm smarter than you. I know more about you. Like, there's this guy, fucking Liam. This is where I go back to with like, being annoying is the worst thing a person can be, because we were in this creative writing class, right? This is a 1,000 level, like 100 level entry creative writing class. Like, you're just doing this to get a fucking credit. Like, I needed like some kind of art credit or some bullshit like that. And so I took this creative writing class, and this guy was in there being like, so a big part of the class was like, it was like a conversation, right? Like, we would read a part from like a poetry, like a poem, or we'd read like a short story or whatever, and we would like analyze it. We'd talk about it. And this guy always was coming in being like, according to early French literature, and it was like, dude, shut the fuck up, man. Like, everyone in the class, we'd all like, and this is like I said, this is like 1,000 level, entry level class that like a lot of people take to get the credit they need to graduate. And so it's all sorts of different people in there. Like, it's like, there was like some obvious like Trump guys sitting next to me. There was like this anime nerd guy. There's like these fucking trainees in there, these lesbian, like all different kinds of fucking people. And whenever this dumb fucking nerd would come in spouting about fucking, the Three Musketeers or whatever, we'd all look at each other like Jim in the Office, just like, Jesus fucking Christ, can you believe this guy? Everyone hated him, dude. And this is like Napoleon. Like, Napoleon was such a fucking nerd, being like, we're gonna salt the earth and raise the ground and burn it to the ground, that everyone was like, can you shut the fuck up, man? You annoying ass little nerd. You're not the king of the world. But it's kind of what Socrates was like, man. It's a tough call, but he is also one of the first moral philosophers of the ethical school of thought. This is so funny to me, because it's like, what did they do before ethics? And this is where like the thing with like Jesus comes in. Like, a lot of people are like, Jesus is just like the atheists or whatever. They're just like, Jesus, he was stupid. He just said what everyone else, he just like said what we all thought. And it's like, dude, this is like 500 years before Jesus, and they hadn't even come up with ethics yet. And then 500 years later, Jesus just comes in with like the boom shakalaka of like, everyone should be nice to each other. You shouldn't like feel a need to destroy anyone who like slightly wrongs you. So they weren't doing well with ethics and like how we should treat people. And he was like one of the first moral philosophers that thought about that. But Socrates was born in 470 or 469 BC. Obviously, we're going with 469. Obviously, this guy is already so fucking gay. We got to go with 469 just to bump it up a little bit. Just to bump him into like that, it's like 469. Dude, you were born at 469. That's so funny, Socrates. God, I bet Plato was saying that. 69, dude, Socrates, you rule so hard. I bet you 69 all the time, dude. I bet you 69 with boys and girls all the fucking time. But we're going to go with 469 because this guy needs all the cool points he can get. And he was born in Alopice or Alopice, I don't know how it's pronounced, which is like a suburb kind of Athens. And Athens was like a city-state. And so it wasn't like a huge empire, but it was, it was kind of like a regular old, it was kind of like Cleveland. It was probably like a Cleveland-sized city at the time, and he was born in the suburbs. So basically, this guy was born in like the suburbs of Cleveland, or even worse, like the suburbs of Los Angeles, because obviously anyone that knows Greek history knows that Athens was like the center of thought at the time. So maybe he was born in like a suburb of Boston. Maybe that's the best way to put it. But still, he was born in the fucking burbs, and he's just like a gay little nerd that went to fucking elementary school and figured out how to think. He was the only dude that, to give him credit, he was like one of the 4 dudes at the time who knew how to think. And everyone else who knew how to think was busy with like war or whatever. They were busy with maintaining the empire. They were busy with like trying to figure out how to outmaneuver their enemy so that their like city-state didn't like crumble to the fucking ground. But they didn't have time to think about morals. And also, this is from the Greek History Podcast, and I'm paraphrasing, and this is like an awful paraphrasing, but just before Socrates was born, the Persians and the Greeks were fighting each other, right? And the Persians, that's where like the movie 300 comes from. 300 is about the Battle of Thermopylae, which I'm pretty sure the Persians won. Pretty sure those 300 guys got their asses kicked by the literal biggest army ever conceived at the time. And so the Persians beat the Spartans. And so obviously the fucking Athenians aren't gonna do shit, you know. These gay nerds, they're too busy talking about pottery or whatever. They're not gonna be whooping on no Persian ass. And so the Persians got into Athens and they basically like burned it to the fucking ground. So they got in there and they burned Athens to the ground. So at the time when like Socrates was born, I think like when he was like first born, the war was still going on. The Persian Greek war was still going on. And so they got in there and they burned Athens to the ground. And so while Socrates was growing up, he was seeing like Athens basically being rebuilt from the ground up. And so he grew up relatively wealthy and was taught reading and writing. And so his dad was a stone cutter. He was like a mason or something like that, and his mom was a midwife. So he grew up in like a nice middle class household, you know. His mom was basically a nurse and his dad was basically a construction worker. And this is, you know, akin to like a post-war US, you know, everything is being like rebuilt. There's the big enemy, like the big boogeyman has been defeated. Like there's no clear enemy at the time, so they're busy rebuilding everything. And so Socrates was kind of not really, but kind of like born at the perfect time to be able to be a thinker, right? Because like the big bad boogeyman was dead. There was still obviously like other little wars going on, you know. It's people are always going to fight, but he was kind of born at like a decent time. He was also taught gymnastics, poetry, and music. And this is not helping his being a gay nerd case, dude. Gymnastics, even straight dudes that do gymnastics, just something about their body is like, I know you want dick, dude. I see those guys swinging on those bars. They're like holding themselves up with those rings, and I'm like, what are you training for, dude? You training to get a big old Greek dick in your ass? What the fuck are you doing? But I do think at the time gymnastics just meant like general like physical activity. You know, like the word gymnasium. I'm pretty sure actually the word gymnasium means like naked guy or something like that, because they obviously, all they had was like cotton. I don't even know if they had cotton, but like wool basically. That's all they had. And so when they worked out, they had to work out like butt ass naked. They used to like do this thing where they like tied up the end of their dicks or something like that. God damn it. Socrates is not helping his case at all. And then poetry. Oh, and this is like a fun little fact I learned when I was listening to that Greek podcast. So there's this lady named Sappho, and she was like the Beyonce kind of at the time of music. You know, obviously I just said she's Beyonce. The Beyonce of, I don't know, what else does Beyonce do? Doesn't she own vitamin water or some shit like that? But Sappho, she was this lady, and she was like the most famous musician at the time, and she was like this great musician, and everyone knew about her. She was called the ninth muse, and the other 8 muses were like these completely mythical figures, basically, like these demigods or like goddesses or whatever. And she was so good at music that she was considered the ninth muse in like Greek, you know, not mythology, but like in the cultural zeitgeist, right? Like everyone was like, this lady's so fucking good, she has to have some kind of divine power into her. And she was obviously Greek, and she was born on the island of Lesbos. And we're all thinking the same thing, and you're right. That is where the word lesbian comes from. Because Sappho, she was obviously this musician, right? And a lot of the love songs she wrote, and a lot of her songs were about love, were like kind of like lesbian in nature, which at the time was chill. But it was a little weird. And because a lot of people talk about like how homosexuality was like kind of normal in the Greek world, but it was kind of like pedophiles, shit like that, because it was like a dude would like teach like a young boy about all the shit he knew about, but he would also fuck that young boy. And same with like the chicks. Like the chicks, it wasn't like 2 like grown ass lesbians like what we think about now. Like 2 chicks with like crew cuts and hoodies like eating each other's pussies and getting in fist fights. It was like an older woman teaching a younger girl, and she would like eat her pussy, I guess. But she was like, she loved being a lesbian, dude, and she loved being a lesbian so much that they named being a lesbian after her. Like she was like such a great artist, you know, that they named a type of sexuality after her. And a lot of her poems have been lost, and I listened to like a recreation of one, and it doesn't rhyme or anything. There's a bit of rhythm to it, but not like there's not a ton of rhythm to it. But And so they named being lesbian after her. And obviously he was also trained in music. I don't know what music instruments they had at the time. They had like two. They had two musical instruments. They had like the lyre and like, or like the lute or whatever the fuck it's called, and like the drum, which is like the most basic fucking instrument on earth. And so I guess he just learned he could probably rip it on the drum though. You know what I mean? If like the drum is the only instrument on earth, you're gonna be pretty dedicated to that, right? You're not gonna be distracted by like trumpets or like tubas or clarinets or whatever. You're gonna be focused on that drum grind. And so he was trained in all these things. And also another fun Greek fact about music is that the Odyssey and the Iliad, those were both like originally like musicals, kind of, but not like they weren't like these big productions, but these guys called like bards would go around like singing about these legends. And basically what they did is they'd learn all these different like legends, all these different stories, and they'd like mix and match them together to like make like these long fucking things that were like really entertaining to watch. And it was just like one guy with like a robe and a stick going around doing all this. And so I guess Homer, he was like a bard, but he was like also one of the first guys to like write down a cohesive version of one of these stories. And so that's like a little fun fact about Greece. And then Socrates, back to this gay little nerd, he was married twice. And one time he got married in his 50s, I guess, and he had 3 kids. And that marriage in the 50s was probably not the somewhat of an appropriate age if I had to take a wild shot. She was like the daughter of like not a politician, but like some kind of like important political figure at the time. And also Athens, which was like the founding place of like Western or like just democracy as a whole, the way they would elect some leaders, right? Like some leaders, it was just like whoever got the most votes won. But they also had this thing called the Council of 500, which was like 500 people from Athens and like their whole surrounding city-state, right? And these guys were just like randomly selected. And so when people talk about like the democratic process, like what would the ancient Athenians think? Like they'll point at Trump or whatever and be like, what would the ancient Athenians think of Trump, about our democracy, about votes not meaning anything anymore? And it's like they didn't vote. They didn't vote either. They had, and most people also couldn't vote. You had to be like a land-owning male over the age of 18 to be able to vote. So not a lot of people there were voting either. And so, and another thing about Athenian democracy that people talk about a lot is these demagogues. And if you don't know, a demagogue is like it's a person, it's like a political figure, right? Like someone that's trying to get a position of power that does it not through like rational argument and being like pointing out facts and being like, this is how I'm going to improve this place. I'm going to do this, this, and that. There's someone who's like this charismatic figure who like just argues about or just like appeals to people's emotions basically. And people always like point to Trump as like Trump is like the only demagogue to ever exist in, you know, the United States history. And it's like, no, I'm pretty sure like every president ever was a demagogue. Like every president after like George Washington was just a pure demagogue, being like, fucking the whole world's gonna explode if you don't fucking elect me, everyone's gonna die. Like that's been every president for a while. Like that's how Obama got it. Obama was like, if you don't vote for me, they're gonna kill all the black people, they're gonna round them up and they're gonna put them in camps and they're gonna kill. Like that's everyone ever. And so the Athenians, Trump wouldn't be the thing that they would look at and be like, oh my God, what an evil demagogue. No, they'd look at every other president, every political figure basically that we've had, like even senators and shit like that, and be like, no, all of these guys are demagogues. All these people do is appeal to people's emotions, and then they get in and they don't do anything to help the people. And so that's a little fun fact about Athenian democracy for you. And this is where Socrates gets back a little bit. He gets his get back a little. He served during the Second Peloponnesian War, which was... Fuck, I was kind of wrong about this one. Or wait, no, I was right. I was thinking of the Persian War. He served during the Second Peloponnesian War, which was the Athenians and the Spartans were beefing with each other. And this one is also just called the Peloponnesian War because it was the last one. There was a first Peloponnesian and then there was a second. There might have been a third, like 100 years down the line or whatever, but this one was like the one that kind of ended the conflict between Athens and Sparta at the time. And he served during that war. And according to Plato, once again, this is kind of his butt boy. This is his dick sucker being like, Socrates, you're so cool, man. You know everything and you know gymnastics. You're such a badass. But Plato did say that Socrates distinguished himself in 3 campaigns during the war. So, hey, you got to get back a little bit. You know what I mean? But this next line we got here is not, I don't know, it could prove that he's straight as hell because gay dudes... I'll just say what I wrote down. He was notoriously ugly and rarely bathed. But that might prove that he's straight. You know what I mean? Because if you're a gay dudes, I don't know if this is true, but like everyone is like gay dudes are fucking jacked and they like wash themselves all the time and they're completely hairless. But I think that's just like the gay dudes we see on TV and shit. Because I have to imagine that a lot of gay dudes are just like, because if you're a gay dude, you can get dick whenever you want because guys are just horny all the time, right? And so I imagine that that's not true of all gay dudes. That like you can kind of just like not really take that good a care of yourself or whatever, and like not shave or whatever, and like not shower that often and not like work out or whatever and still get dick, because obviously dudes are always horny, so they're always going to be willing to, sling out some dick, so I imagine that like gay dudes, it's kind of like straight people, like there's levels to it, right? Like not all gay dudes are like these jacked guys that like shave their bodies and like oil themselves up and like play with their big old dicks. But so I mean, this might be point Socrates, this might be, this is a point in the straight column. This is a point like, okay, dude, you rule. You were ugly and you didn't shower. You were just like, fuck everyone. That's kind of fucking, you kind of rule, dude. But that's also kind of like a gay thing. Like back to that dude Liam that I was talking about, that gay fucking asshole that was just coming in talking about fucking, I guess, Greek tragedies and shit in an intro level writing class. He would wear like basketball shorts and like a trench coat. And it's like, no person that owns a trench coat also owns basketball shorts, dude. Like, I know you're doing this on purpose. I know you're trying to look like Socrates or whatever. You just don't care about anything. I know you're doing it on purpose. I can fucking tell, dude. Fuck you, you gay nerd. So this is point Socrates, I'm going to say. And he only owned like one coat or like one toga or whatever the fuck they wore at the time, and he didn't wear shoes. So and that's another point away from Socrates, because the whole not wearing shoes thing is very gay, dude. Just throw on some Crocs or some like Hey Dudes or something like that. You don't got to be wearing like Jordans or fucking dress shoes all the time. You can just throw on like some basic shit. The barefoot thing is very performative, is what I'm saying. But he was also very mindful of his eating, drinking, and his sex. And so he was just like, yeah. And I don't think, look, no offense, Socrates, and I think this is the way Plato describes Socrates, is he had like a big round belly, which, hey, I relate to, dude. This morning, and there's nothing worse than this. So I've been losing weight a little bit over the past 2 years, or past 3 years maybe. And like whenever you sit down, like whenever you're feeling skinny, right? Whenever you're like, dude, I might be able to get to my weight goal soon, or like my, not even weight, but like looking good, like losing all my fat. Every time you sit down, that completely goes away, because whenever anyone, no matter how jacked, no matter how lean you are, whenever you sit down, you get a little bit of a belly, dude. So when I was taking a shit this morning, I was like, God damn it, I'm going to be fat for my entire fucking life, dude. I'm such a loser. But it's like, whenever you sit down, like everything gets compressed and you get a little bit of a belly no matter what. But I do. There is a little bit more than that. I'm not Ronnie Coleman sitting down and like my abs are spilling out of my shirt or whatever. No, there's some fat there. I'll be the first to admit it. And so Socrates, he also had a bit of a belly, which I can relate to, dude. Like even if I was skinny, I'd still have a belly because I just have like a lean gut like that. So maybe Socrates was fucking jacked. He's trained in gymnastics and shit. Those guys are pretty fucking lean. So Socrates might have had a lean gut. But the other two things that I remember about his description was he had bulging eyes and like a crooked upturned nose. So this guy, he was a bit of a piggly wiggly dude, a bit of a snail. He had big eyes that were just poking out of his head and a nice big old nose. But hey, that's why he had to think, you know what I mean? He couldn't go around fucking young boys like the rest of these guys. He had to think about shit. And so he, that goes back to like the sex thing. It's like maybe he wasn't fucking that much, It's like maybe he didn't control his sex because he was having so much of it. He controlled his sex because, he just said he could, right? It's like me being like, I'm waiting till marriage. And it's like, no, I'm not waiting till marriage. I'm just so ugly that I can't get any pussy. So Socrates might have been in the same vein as me. He did not, to his credit though, and this is allegedly according to Plato, I don't know if I believe this shit for a fucking second, he did not fuck young boys, although he wanted to. He said that he wanted to fuck these young boys, but he was like, no, I'm more interested in educating these guys than fucking them. But I don't know if I believe that, dude. I don't know. He might have been like a pedophile history teacher. He might have been like a gym coach being like, send me pictures of your abs, guys. You guys have been hitting the gym a lot? Yeah, that's fucking good. Send me pictures of your abs. Maybe go a little lower than that. I think Socrates might have been boy butt lying, dude. He might have been lying about not fucking these boys' butts. But to his credit, He could have just admitted to it because at the time it was normal for male teachers to fuck their young boy disciples, and that's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Sappho. You could have got in there. You could have got some nice, hairless boy butt, oiled it up with a little bit of olive oil, and really got active. But to his credit, he never admitted to doing it. So for all we know, he never did. I think he did, though, dude. I think he was lying about moderating his sex. I think he was definitely getting in boy butt a little bit. But we'll never know. We'll never really know because Plato, his little butt boy, he couldn't bring himself to, talk shit about his guy. And Socrates, he was famous for standing up to the 30 tyrants of Athens. The 30 tyrants were installed by Sparta after the Second Peloponnesian War, after Athens lost. So they got in there and they kind of installed this puppet government a little bit. I can't imagine that it worked out for that long because I still think Athens was kind of like its own thing. Because at this time, dude, it's like fucking 500 BC. It's like these guys are not, they don't even have, it takes like, in the 1700s, it took like 3 months to get news, from like London to Birmingham or like London to Paris or whatever. So I can't imagine that at this time it was any easier to control it. It was a significantly smaller area, though, like a significantly smaller distance between Sparta and Athens. So they might have been able to get some news there. But Sparta won, and they were like, "We're coming out of the gate, dude. We're not even gonna think you guys have democracy." And the Spartans were like, "Democracy's fucking gay, dude." They thought of it as like mob rule, right? They thought it was like just like these fucking retarded villagers with like their pitchforks and torches being like, fuck you or whatever. Like that's what they thought about democracy. That's what the Spartans thought. And so they were just like, yeah, we're putting these tyrants in, dude. What are you guys going to do about it? Suck our dicks. Democracy is gay. But the 30 tyrants wanted Socrates to like go out and arrest, what the fuck is this guy's name? Leon the Salaminian. I'm gonna call him Leon the Salami Man. They wanted Socrates to go out and arrest this guy, Leon the Salami Man. And this might have been, they don't really know, but there was like this great Athenian general named Leon, and so this might have been the same Leon. It might have been they wanted him to arrest this guy because Leon fought against the Spartans during the Peloponnesian War. They don't really know though. But Socrates was like, nah, fuck that. He was like, and they were gonna execute the guy too. They were getting ready to kill someone. I mean, obviously these guys are the Spartans. If they're gonna arrest someone, they're gonna kill him too. But they wanted Socrates to go out and arrest this guy to kill him, and Socrates is just like, nah, I'm not doing that, dude. I got bare feet. I'm not walking all the way the fuck there. I'm not gonna go and kill this guy. And they didn't do anything. But the 30 tyrants only like ruled over Athens or like had power in Athens for a year. So Socrates might have been like, you guys are getting out of here anyway, dude. You guys are literally called the 30 tyrants. I don't know if people are going to put up with you much longer. So that might have been the thought process there. He wasn't like some moral absolutist. He was like, you guys aren't going to be in power anyway. I don't want to go hunt this fucking general down, this guy who's like a master in fucking combat and warfare. I'm not going to go hunt this guy down and like tell him you're going to kill him and try to like capture him. I'm not going to do that. You guys are going to be out of here in a year anyway. Fuck off. So I don't know. That's maybe because I have like the notion of like Socrates was like a gay nerd, but maybe he could have been like a fucking, a Katniss Everdeen standing up, putting the 3 fingers in the air. Who knows? But he didn't do it. But Socrates did get got eventually. He did get got. He was made to drink poison hemlock after being convicted of corrupting the youth. He was accused of making the youth worship false gods. And so Athens had like, I think their god was obviously Athena, right? Or Athena? Yeah, Athena. Their god was Athena at the time. And I guess he was like, no, fuck that. Which is, that's like the one Greek god that like Socrates would like be fine with worshiping because she's like the god of like wisdom and all that shit. And that he fucking loves wisdom and knowledge, as we'll get to in a little bit. He fucking loves that shit. So you'd think he'd be chill with Athena, but no. He was like, we're not fucking worshiping these guys. And he also had like this gaggle of young boys that always like followed him around and like watched him, debate these people and like use the Socratic method and shit like that. And so he was accused of being like making these guys not worship the right gods. And so he went to the trial, and his last words were, "Credo, we owe a cock to Asclepius. Pay it and don't forget." And so I guess Credo was like one of his more famous followers at the time. And Asclepius, I don't even know if that's how you say his name. He was the god of health, and sacrifices were made to him to cure illness. And so they'd kill like a chicken, I guess, which is what a cock is. It's a rooster, it's a male chicken. And they'd kill this fucking chicken. They'd be like, I don't have AIDS anymore. I've been fucking all these young boys, but I just killed a chicken, no more AIDS. And so he he told them to do this. And some people look at it this way: Socrates viewed life as an illness, and his death was therefore a cure. So, god damn it, we got another point in the gay nerd column. We got another one right there, being like, life is meaningless. Life is no one's meant to live. All right, is this what you call living? Seriously, this is what we're doing with our lives? Like, that's what Socrates did. He's like, just kill me now. Oh my god, I fucking hate this world anyway, and everyone that lives in it. So that's another point in the gay column, unfortunately. Very unfortunate there. And like I said earlier, Socrates never wrote anything down. It was mostly Plato who wrote it down. And then I think this guy Crito, who he was talking to when he got executed, he also wrote shit down. But yeah, once again, back to the gay nerd thing. He thought he was the shit. I would say he's the shit, but not a fart. He's not a fart, dude. And so now we're on to his philosophies, his worldview, the way he tried to understand things. And we're starting out with the Socratic method. You might have heard about this in high school or whatever. Like, I feel like in high school we had, like, Socratic discussions or whatever. Socratic debates and shit, like English class and history and stuff like that. And this is, it's just so gay, dude. It's how I argue, though, so I can't talk too much shit about it. We'll get to how I argue in a second. But... So the Socratic method, aka refutation, is a line of questioning meant to expose ignorance and find an absolute truth. So it's kind of like, I'll explain it actually. So Socrates would ask an interlocutor, usually an expert, for a definition or a belief within a topic. So he'd be like, all right, you know about, the gods or whatever. Come talk to me about the gods. Come tell me about, Zeus or whatever the fuck. And he'd be like, all right, what's the definition of Zeus? What's his whole thing? What does he do? And so then after that, he would basically ask like a bunch of questions in a row. He'd be like, all right, so Zeus, what's up with that? Like, how'd he come into power? And they'd be like, oh, well, the Titans, he like defeated the Titans and then he came into power. And he's like, well, where did the Titans come from? And they'd be like, oh, he came from Gaia or whatever. And they'd be like, all right, then where does Gaia come from? And they like wouldn't have an answer. And so he'd like ask all these questions and wait for an answer to one of the questions that like kind of contradicted the definition that he asked, right? So if he asked like what goodness was, they'd be like doing the right thing, and he's like, well, what is doing the right thing? And it's like, well, doing what you think is right. And then he basically just keep asking questions until eventually they get to a point where like something they says contradicts that definition. Then he'd be like, gotcha. And then usually at that point, the interlocutor, who I guess was just like the person that he was asking the questions to, would come up with a new definition which would be scrutinized in the same way. He'd basically and this is go back to how I argue. Like, I figured I haven't got a chance to use this because I don't really argue with anyone ever, because I don't. It's like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I'm gonna convince you of something that you're not. You're not. I barely believe what I believe it, dude. I'm not gonna convince everyone else. But like, if I want to get in an argument and someone's just annoying the fuck out of me during an argument, you can just keep asking why, and that's basically the Socratic method. Just being like, why is that true? Why is that true? And just keep doing that until like they get to like the most base level, like they're trying to explain like, I don't know, microbiology or whatever to you. Like, that's like a good one to do. If you're just like, dude, I don't want to fucking argue with this shit about you. I obviously disagree with you, and you're a very annoying person in general. Just keep asking them why. Just be like, why? Why is that true? Okay, why is that true? And just keep, no matter what they say, just be like, okay, why? And that's basically the Socratic method, and that's how he destroyed these people. And Socrates, he wasn't like too much of an asshole about the shit he did, but he was kind of an asshole. So he would test his own beliefs like this, and he acknowledged his own ignorance. He's just like, yeah, I'm fucking dumb as shit too, dude, but you're fucking more dumber as shit than I am, dude. You're dumber than shit. You're shitter than dumb, dude. I'm just gonna keep asking you why until you fucking contradict yourself, and then I'm gonna be like owned. And this is where I go back to like the whole, Charlie Kirk, Steven Crowder, Ben Shapiro thing of just going to like college campuses and just being like, I'm smarter than you. You think you know anything? No one knows anything, and I'm smarter. And no one knows anything, but I'm still smarter than you. So that's another point in the gay column. Unfortunately. And Socratic questioning, I guess to his credit a little bit, it wasn't done necessarily to like prove someone wrong or be like you're stupid, but to unveil like the thought process used to form the opinion, right? It wasn't to be like, oh, you're fucking dumb and you'll never be smart in your whole entire life, or like you're always wrong about everything. It was like your thought process is wrong, and if you fix your thought process, then maybe you'll come to the same conclusion, but you'll come to it in a way that makes you understand what you're talking about a little bit more. And so that, and that's not what was written down in the thing I read, but I'm gonna say that because I can't keep tearing Socrates down, dude. I can't keep going after the boy like this. So I'm gonna give him some credit there, even though it's credit that I completely made up. I gotta give it to him. And so that's what it was about. Just being like, all right, your thought process is. He thought the thought process behind most things is that people believed what they believed because society believed it. He was basically like, unfortunately, another point in the gay call. Still, dude, Socrates is getting his fucking ass whipped by this shit. But he was basically like, you only believe what society believes. You know, it was kind of like you only believe it because it's in the Bible. Your precious little sky daddy came down in a burning bush and told you that murder is wrong, and that's why you believe murder is wrong. And that's basically what Socrates was doing. I was comparing him to a Republican earlier, a rightoid, a right-tard. That's funny, a right-tard. I was comparing him to a right-tard, but he is a bit of a lib in that way, being like, the gods aren't real. You know that, right? Some guy just like made that up so he can control you. You know the gods aren't real. He was... God, it's just so unfortunate. It's so unfortunate that he's a gigantic gay nerd because I like ancient Greece. Like, if I could go back in time, like, to any place, I'd want to be like a bard in ancient Greece, like a Homer type of guy, just like going around telling these stories and like mixing and matching and like kind of making up my own shit. Like, that sounds like the greatest fucking time ever. Like, I wouldn't want to be like a general in like World War II or some shit like that. I want to be like a bard in ancient Greece. But I mean, if they were anything like Socrates, I might have to take that back. I would visit the island of Lesbos, though. I'd be like, there's an entire island full of them. There's an entire island, dude. This is like the fucking San Francisco, but for Lesbos. I'm definitely going there. That's the main reason I would want to time travel back to ancient Greece, to just watch like these fucking hairy Greek lesbians make out with each other. But back to Socrates, dude. Back to the gay shit. The lesbian shit rules, but the gay shit, I mean, it's just so gay. It's just so gay. But some people argue that the Socratic method and like just like what he was trying to do in general, simply finds inconsistencies in the arguer's beliefs. Like it doesn't find any inconsistency within like the thing itself, but like in the arguer, if that makes sense, right? So it's like Socrates wasn't attacking, morality or whatever. He was attacking the arguer themselves, right? And I think that's what they call an ad hominem in debate or whatever, which is what I was talking about a little bit on Thursday, where it's like you can just make up all these words. That doesn't make them true. It doesn't make an ad hominem a thing. Like I can just be like, well, that's a logical inconsistency in your argument there. So that's very actually that doesn't work. You're not proving me wrong because that's a logical inconsistency. Like you can just say that, right? Like it doesn't mean anything. So I'm kind of saying that like Socrates thing, it's gay, but it's not. It doesn't, like arguing is gay to begin with. Like debating someone is gay to begin with. So it's like, what difference does it make if he's doing it in a slightly more gay way? It's still, it's all gay to me, dude. It's all Greek to me. It's all the same dumb bullshit. But during his argument, Socrates would prioritize definition, right? Like this is what we were talking about earlier with like, you have one definition, then you kind of come up with a new definition or whatever. And he would kind of, it's a tough thing here because I'm thinking he would like maybe, he would be like, oh, what's the definition of this? And someone would kind of stumble over it, and then he'd like kind of help him a little bit, but he wasn't really helping him. He was kind of helping him come up with a dumb definition that you could tear to the ground, because that seemed like a lot of what he was doing was just like kind of tricking these guys a little bit. He was like an arguing hustler. He was a debate hustler, being like, yeah, I don't really know either. So could you define it for me? Like that's. He was kind of doing some bitch shit. Oh, what do you mean by that? Huh, interesting. What do you mean by... He was very chickish in that way. But to do this, he would give clear examples of something, find out what they have in common, and then extrapolate a definition from there. And so my example for this was like trees. It was like, okay, what do all trees have in common? They're all plants. Okay, so a tree is a plant. What else do they have in common? They all have leaves, all right? Then trees are plants with leaves. Glad we cleared that one up. What else do they have in common? They have wood. Okay, so trees are plants with wood, and fucking leaves and, whatever the fuck else. Okay, what else do they have? Bark. Well, some trees don't have bark, so we can't add that into the definition. And that's basically how he'd come up with these definitions for his arguments. And this may have been just a Plato thing, though. They don't really know if he was doing this shit, because Plato was writing all this down. And Plato wrote, and I guess this is a thing in philosophy, he wrote these dialogues. And they don't really do this in philosophy anymore. Some people do it. But he would just, I guess, write like the back and forth between two people to like discuss philosophy in that way, if that makes sense. And so he wrote, a lot of them were about Socrates. There was like one called The Apology. There was, I don't know, he wrote like 4 or 5 of them about Socrates. And so this might have just been a him thing, though. And he would write like a character of Socrates, if that makes sense. He'd be like, oh, Socrates would say this about this, and he'd say this about that. Is basically what Plato did. So they don't really know if that's what Socrates did, but they think it was, because obviously the Socratic method, like the definition is very important in that. So I'm thinking he did. I'm going to lean towards Socrates did prioritize, defining something when he was arguing about it. But Socrates acknowledged that, he believed that acknowledging your lack of knowledge is the first step towards wisdom, to being like, yeah, I don't really know this thing, so I'm going to try to understand it in a more holistic way. That's what he thought the first step was towards gaining wisdom. And I'm going to disagree with him there. I think the first step towards gaining wisdom is being like, fuck everything. Everyone else is wrong about everything, and I don't really care about anything either. I think I'm going to go with that's the first step. I think I'm going to disagree with Socrates here. I've been calling him a gay nerd this entire time, so for me to disagree, I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying he's a gay nerd. And gay nerds, they're right a fair amount of time. Like Oppenheimer, he was a gay nerd, but he was right about the nuke working, right? He was a gay little nerd being like, oh my God, I killed so many people. It's like, yeah, dude, you made a bomb. Right? It wasn't like he was making like a nuclear reactor, right? It wasn't like he was trying to figure out how to make nuclear energy and the government just stole it from him and figured out how to make a bomb with it. It's like, no, dude, the past 5 years of your life have been like focused around making this bomb. Like, what are you talking about? But he was right. He was right that the bomb was very powerful and would kill a lot of people. So, hey, well, what are you going to do? I'm not calling him wrong. I'm calling him a gay nerd. Those are two completely different things. And so some believe that Socrates believed that in order to know something, to like truly know something, that you must know the whole of that thing, and therefore you'll never know anything. And this goes back to him being a gay nerd, because it's just like, yeah, I'm never going to know the whole of everything. I'm never going to, because everything is interconnected to everything else. So in order to know one thing, I have to know everything. So why don't you just fuck off and let me believe what I'm going to believe in? And this is why he was an emo. He was like, no one knows anything. No one will never know anything. I'll never know anything. Life is meaningless. Please kill me. And he didn't even have the courage to kill himself. That's another reason why I heavily dislike him, because it wasn't even like he was like, all right, well, no one knows anything and I'll never know anything. Time to jump off this cliff. It was like he waited for someone basically to force him to kill himself, and he made like a big charade, a big show out of it. So that is very, very annoying and very gay of him to do that. It's just, God damn it, Socrates. God damn, dude. You're killing me, dude. You're fucking killing me. This is like watching your kid get addicted to drugs or whatever. It's like, come on, dude. Just take one step in the right direction. That's all you need, and you could rule hard as fuck, dude. You fought in the Peloponnesian War, and you invented thinking, and this is what you choose to do with it, dude. Come on, man. It's like watching your son, who's like the star quarterback, get addicted to pills. It's like, come on, man. I know life is hard, but just make a step in the right direction. Please, Socrates, please do it. Please, you know something. I know you know something. Come on, Socrates. But he didn't know anything. He did not know anything. And he is one of his famous quotes, and this is another Plato quote, is, I know that I know nothing. And that's just like a very, like, it's like a my body, my choice type of quote. It's like, what are we doing here? Come on, man. Just say something real. Say something real, for the love of God. Your arguing technique rules. I use it all the time. I love it. Just annoy someone into like screaming and being like, I'm calm. You're screaming and I'm calm. Come on, Socrates. I use that method all the time. But no, you're choosing to be like, I know nothing. But I don't know. That might have just proved that he was the man being like, I don't care if you think I'm a gay nerd. I'm still going to say that I know nothing. I'm still going to say that the only thing that I truly know is that I know nothing. Socrates. Some people believe this may have been a ruse to get people to debate him. It might have been like a thing of like, I don't really know anything about the topic. Like, I don't truly know the topic. You do though, right? Like, you truly understand it. You truly really know where it comes from, what it means. So that might have been a thing that he would do, being like, I don't know. I don't know anything about philosophy. Oh, me, Socrates, little me. I don't know anything about philosophy. What even is that? What does that word even mean, philosophy? Can you explain it to me? Please just explain it. He might have been like, might have been some chick shit like that. Being like, I'm not mad. Why are you mad? Like, I'm so not mad right now, but like, just tell me why you're mad. Just like, because I'm like 0% upset right now and you seem a little upset. So I just want to understand where you're coming from. Like, why are you upset like that? Like, what does it mean when like you say you're like upset at me for like going out to a club with all my friends at 3 a.m. and not telling you? Like, I just want to understand like why you're upset about that, because I don't see what the big deal is there. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right that you should be upset, but like, I'm not. It's basically what Socrates is doing. All chicks are just students of Socrates. Like, all of Socrates' like disciples, all like his students at the time, they were other dudes. But I mean, if he really wanted to get big, if he really wanted to be like a powerful like emperor, like a real powerful king, he could have got the chicks on his side. He could have gone to the island of Lesbos, but the Lesbos wouldn't do that. They'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude. Get out of here, gay ass Socrates, with your poetry and philosophy. We're too busy eating pussy. Get the fuck out of here. So I don't know. He could have gotten very powerful if he got the straight chicks on his side, just to be like, you know, like a Kamala Harris. He could have been Kamala Harris, just like completely like, fuck the dudes. Who cares about the dudes? I just need like the straight annoying ass chicks on my side, and then I'll win. So maybe that's why he didn't do it. He was like, one day there will be a woman who lies about her ethnicity, trying to become the most powerful leader in the world, and the way she'll try to do it is by getting the most annoying people on earth on her side, and I shall never do that. I think that's what Socrates might have done. And he was also famous, and this is another point in the gay column. We're just getting gay, dude. I'm walking through San Francisco right now, pointing people out on the street. Gay. That's where we're at with this shit. He was famous for his use of irony in life and in his teachings. And irony's kind of funny when you do it seriously, if that makes sense. Like, irony, like, obviously I do it all the fucking time. But like, because I know I'm just so ironic, but like being like, oh, I'm so ironic. Like, don't you know about irony and shit? Like, it's just like, if you're trying to be ironic to like make a joke or something, like, that's one thing. That's just like you trying to have fun. But if you're trying to be ironic to be like, you're stupid, like, that's just so fucking annoying, man. It's like, what are you doing? You're being like, oh yeah, you believe the same thing as me. Well, I actually don't believe that, so you're stupid. It's like, come on, man. Come on. Come on, Socrates. I should have done Plato. I listened, but the reason I didn't do Plato is because that Greek podcast I was listening to already did an episode about it, so I was like, dude, fuck it. I can't do Plato. I have to do Socrates. Even though he's so much gayer, I still have to do Socrates. But now we're on to Socratic eudaimonism. Eudaimonism, I think is how it's pronounced, and intellectualism. And eudaimonia is the Greek word for happiness or welfare. And I know that means like true or real, so I think that daimonia means like happiness or like joy or whatever the fuck, some shit like that, like true happiness, almost like enlightenment, right? Like, I think that's what this is like akin to. It's akin to not just being like successful and like, I guess, like feeling good all the time. It's about like being truly content and like being like, not even happiness is the word. It's like just being like, you know, my life is good. I know myself. I know, you know, what I want to do and shit. So I think that's what this is, you know. I'm just trying to draw like comparisons to anything I know about. And once again, I've got to like Socrates. I know nothings, but I actually do know nothing. So I'm trying to draw these comparisons here. And Socrates believed that the pursuit of eudaimonia, motivated all human action directly or indirectly. And this is where we go back to like obviously territory, but he was also one of the only people at the time who was like thinking about literally anything. So, you know, but he believed that everyone was just trying to be like happy and content all the time, and that like some people had like incorrect rationale trying to get there, but they were still rationally thinking to get to this place of enlightenment, of contentment, with your life. So he thought that's what motivated all human action. And so I guess he was the first person to think of this, because I feel like most people now, they agree. Like, even if you're doing heroin, like you're on the street just shooting up, dude, even that, like, those people think that they're rationalizing in their own mind that, like, there is a path to happiness through this thing, if that makes sense. And so that's what Socrates believed. And I think, that's what they mean when he says he's one of, like, the founding fathers of, like, Western, or he is, like, the founder of Western philosophy, is that, we all kind of agree on that one. But Buddha was born however many years earlier, and he kind of, I don't know if he believed the same thing as that. It's Buddha's whole thing was more about, like, just trying to figure it out for yourself, if that makes sense. But, Socrates' thing, he was, like, looking more at, like, society as a whole. And they're both, I'd say Buddha rules a little bit more than Socrates, but I just love ancient Greece so much. It might be point Socrates. I might have to give him some credit there. Who knows? But anyway, he believed that, and some believe he thought that knowledge was a means to this happiness. Like, the more you know, the more wisdom you gain, the more you'll be able to, like, get to this goal of eudaimonism or eudaimonia. But others believed he thought they were, like, one and the same, basically, that, like, just however much just try to get as much knowledge, and that eventually will just, like, culminate in, like, this big thing and just make you feel enlightened and make you feel content with your life. Whereas Buddha's is kind of the opposite. He's kind of just like, just like, chill the fuck out, dude. Take a fuck. He's kind of the opposite of Socrates in that way, where he's just like, take a fucking chill pill, dude. Calm the fuck down, sit under a tree, and just take a fucking chill pill and calm the fuck out. So, who really knows? Who really knows which is the way there? You guys know my belief. Get high and play Fortnite. That's the other way. It's the other way out of this. It's the other surefire way. But Socrates, he was like, just get as much knowledge as possible, and then eventually you'll get there, which I do kind of understand. I do kind of understand that, like, you're not going to pin down, like, one exact thing that's going to 100% lead everyone to enlightenment or, like, content with their life. So you might as well be like, yeah, if you just get as much knowledge as possible, you might get a hit, right? It's like a gambling type of thing, where it's like, if you place a bet on every horse in the Kentucky Derby, you're going to get a win, right? But, like, in this, I guess this is different than that, because you're not trying to win money, you're trying to get enlightened, but you might also get a hard miss, dude. You might lose. You might lose a lot of fucking money in that bet. That's the flip side of this coin. It's heads and tails. It's the same side of the same coin, or different sides of the same coin. But Socrates for sure thought that, like, all virtue in life, like being good, being courageous, all that shit was, like, linked to knowledge, which is kind of the opposite. Like, some of the most courageous people in the modern world are the biggest idiots of all time. Just absolute morons that know nothing, but they know that, you got to sacrifice himself, dude. Or you got to sacrifice yourself a little bit. Self-sacrifice is required to, like, be successful in life and be courageous and all that shit. So I don't know if I agree with Socrates there. And he believed that all actions were in some way all motivated by rational thought. Like, it's like the way you're doing it, right? Like, the rational thought can be, I guess, irrational in a way, if that makes sense. Like, it can be completely wrong. Like, the way you're trying to get from A to B can be a completely stupid and wrong path, and B isn't the place where you're supposed to be, but it's still, like, a path that you're following, right? Like, that's kind of how I think about it, right? It's like you're following this path, and you might be doing it completely incorrectly. Like, you're going through this maze completely incorrectly, and you're hitting all these dead ends, but you're still doing it in, like, a way that's, like, methodical and rational to you. So he kind of didn't believe in irrationality, and I'm going to kind of agree with him there. Like, everything everyone does, they kind of rationalize it in their head, right? Like, that's what justifying is. It's like rationalizing something, being like, okay, this makes sense because of this, and that. Even if you're completely wrong, it's still a rational, methodical thought process that leads you to believing that thing. And so I do kind of agree with him in that way, that, fucking, it's all rational in one way or another, even if the rationale is incorrect. And I guess maybe that's why some people disagree with it, because they have different definitions of rational and irrational. And I guess that's why it's important to define things. So maybe I'm another point Socrates in the fucking straight, cool, fucking ruling, he rules. It's another point in the Socrates column. It's just me disagreeing or agreeing with him. That's all it is. So, and then my final note in this was, he was kind of gay. He's kind of just like a gay fucking nerd that just kept talking. No matter what. He was kind of a bitch about things. And that's Socrates for you. And there's a ton of other philosophy about Socrates. I'm sure you can, like, listen to an audiobook or I was gonna say read a book, but no one reads books anymore, dude. It's all audiobooks and listening to Jordan Peterson. So, uh, there's there's a ton more shit about Socrates, but that's all I got for this episode. Yeah. Hope you have a good day, good week, good year, good life. Finals week is coming up. I hope that goes well for you, and I'll see you guys Tuesday. I'm gonna record like a ton of episodes in a row because I have finals week this week, and so I have to like record when I can. So yeah, I'll see you guys then. Peace out.